Unknown, Zulu 445. CD.
Missile initiating.
Roger, understand, a launch from the Soviet Union.
Roger.
Roger, understand, side report valid, enter valid, and stand by for sync NORAD assessment.
Good, enter the valid.
Sir, the valid is in the system.
General, at this time, we have indications of a launch from the Soviet Union. The side report is valid.
NORAD Bob. NORAD Bob. Surveillance.
Copy.
Sir, we have another unknown in the system.
Security advisor since early this morning. There's still no word yet on what, if any, retaliatory action might be taken against the Soviet Union.
Throughout the day, this situation is unfolding very rapidly.
Indicate there has been a dramatic shakeup among the top Soviet military leaders.
There has been a nuclear explosion in West Germany, and folks have just lost all satellite communication with Europe.
This is Daniel Shaw at the White House. The sirens have just gone off all over Washington, as you can probably hear. There is every indication that something has gone terribly wrong. There is a tremendous amount of activity going on at the White House, but I'm unable to convey to you any of what's going on. Nobody...
West Berlin, 1989. A half-city of over 2 million people and an outpost of the West situated 100 miles behind the Iron Curtain. It is surrounded by the communist state of East Germany and sealed off from its neighbors by the infamous Berlin Wall. Here, in the heart of a divided Europe, will unfold the events that ignite the Third World War. Behind the facade of its status as a military superpower, the Soviet Empire faces a deep political and economic crisis. Within the Kremlin, a fierce debate rages between those who dream of turning back the clock and those like Mikhail Gorbachev who are responding to the winds of change.
We're talking about massive-scale reforms, not details. If we don't plug into the people, if we don't listen to them, we'll never solve this country's problems. If we don't reform our political system, perestroika won't work. We can't solve our problems with old solutions.
Meanwhile, in East Germany, discontent with the hardline communist regime of Erich Honecker is growing more vocal. The East German secret police, the Stasi, are unleashed on the demonstrators. In September, thousands of East Germans, fed up with life under communism, stormed the West German embassy in Prague, seeking asylum. Before the exodus is halted, over 20,000 East Germans make their way to the west.
Ich will gar nicht bestreiten, dass wir damals ernste gesellschaftliche Probleme hatten. Nur als wir gerade dabei waren, Lösungen zu erarbeiten, da kam der Genosse Gorbatschow daher, zum 40. Jahrestag der DDR. Der Zeitpunkt war natürlich denkbar ungünstig. Es war doch ganz offensichtlich, dass er vor allem diese Unruhen angeheizt hat. Seine Anwesenheit macht alles nur noch schlimmer.
Many in East Germany have pinned their hopes on Mikhail Gorbachev to set the communist leadership on the path to reform. The Soviet Party leader is seen as their last and only hope. At this critical moment, Gorbachev's international political influence is on the line. Erich Honecker, like most of the aging leadership in Eastern Europe, remains lost in the old communist rhetoric of the past.
Da sich die Deutsche Demokratische Republik an der Westgrenze der sozialistischen Länder in Europa als Wellenbrecher gegen Neonazismus und Chauvinismus bewährt. Wie die Sowjetunion, die uns befreit hat, wird die Deutsche Demokratische Republik zum Jahr 2000 diese Schwelle mit der Gewissheit überschreiten, dass nur dem Sozialismus die Zukunft gehört.
Und das alles nur, weil wir friedlich demonstrieren. Wir wollen nichts Schlechtes. Wir wollen hier was.
Я думаю, опасности только подстерегают тех, кто не реагирует на жизнь.
Ich glaube, Gefahren warten nur auf jene, die nicht auf das Leben reagieren.
А тот, кто воспринимает импульсы жизни, общества и трансформирует их в соответствующую политику,
aufgreift und dementsprechend seine Politik gestaltet,
того трудности не должны пугать. Это нормально.
der dürfte keine Angst vor Schwierigkeiten haben. Das ist eine normale Erscheinung.
Спасибо, до свидания.
Dankeschön. Wiedersehen.
These images of Gorbachev's departure from East Berlin are the last the world will ever see of him. His ultimate personal fate is not known.
This is Radio Moscow. Following his return from celebrations in East Berlin, General Secretary Gorbachev has retired from office for reasons of ill health. In accordance with the wishes of Comrade Gorbachev, an emergency plenary session of the Central Committee has handed over leadership to Comrade General Vladimir Soshkin.
Mr. President, do you know who is actually in? What do you believe the motivation is, sir, behind the coup? Why did they remove him?
We don't know that. We don't know that. Clearly, some of the hardliners have been concerned about the rapidity of reform. They've been concerned about the demise of the Communist Party per se, and I think they've also been concerned about the Soviet economy. But I've said over and over again that we did not want to see a coup backed by the KGB and the military, and apparently that is what is underway.
There have been violent street battles in Moscow throughout the night. Opponents of the coup have fought back bravely with rocks and Molotov cocktails. They are no match, however, against the heavily armed forces of the Soviet Interior Ministry, the so-called Black Berets. It is unknown how many people have been killed or wounded, but local hospitals are reporting hundreds of casualties.
By dawn, the Soviet army has seized control of the city. All opposition is driven underground.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it.
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make it stick together, because you can be pretty sure that if it does start to gain altitude, the Russians will be working behind the scenes to try to torpedo it.
объявляю открытыми.
Transparent about these activities, and I urge them not to take any steps that could be misinterpreted or lead to miscalculation during a very delicate time, a time of great tension.
The alternative is us having to engage in some sort of conflict with all kinds of unintended consequences.
Our cohesiveness, our interoperability is the best it's ever been. So what happens as we come out of Afghanistan so that we don't lose that?
So Israel is not bound by this agreement. We cannot and will not allow a regime that calls for the destruction of Israel to obtain the means to achieve this goal. We will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapons capability.
We got a warning that an imminent cyber attack could happen.
Fox times 1. Fox times 2. Crank, go out.
First, the agreement that we reached with Iran will, to an absolute guarantee beyond any reasonable doubt, make Israel safer than it was the day before we entered this agreement, make the region safer than it was the day before we entered this agreement, and make the world safer than it was.
Let's test that over the next 6 months we can resolve this in a diplomatic fashion. Today, the United States took an important first step toward a comprehensive solution that addresses our concerns with the Islamic Republic of Iran's nuclear program.
This agreement has made the world a much more dangerous place. It's a historic mistake.
And in this day and age, every single problem is interconnected. And we need to think about how we're going to pull each other together to solve really big, serious challenges.
With respect to the drone inside of Iran, I'm not going to comment on intelligence matters that are classified. We have asked for it back. We'll see how the Iranians respond. war recedes, a wave of change is washed across the Middle East and North Africa, from Tunis to Cairo, from Sana'a to Tripoli. How this incredible transformation will end remains uncertain. And in Syria, I have no doubt that the Assad regime will soon discover that the forces of change.
We condemn Syria's shooting down of the Turkish
Where should a red line be drawn? A red line should be drawn right here.
It's no secret that Russia and China have advanced cyber capabilities. Iran has also undertaken a concerted effort to use cyberspace to its advantage. It is the battlefield of the future. A cyber attack perpetrated by nation states or violent extremist groups could be as destructive as the terrorist attack on 9/11. The most destructive scenarios involve cyber actors launching several attacks on our critical infrastructure at one time. Attackers could also seek to disable or degrade critical military systems and communication networks. The collective result could be a cyber Pearl Harbor.
There's any fool in New York flying right now. Besides us. Yeah, well. And then that could possibly be the center just ahead. Okay, what about flying into that thing? It's completely open to the east. Oh yeah, it's just ripped open.
But this one is rather unprecedented because it's being steered back towards the U.S. coast, as it's a little different animal than what we normally fly.
We can't attribute any particular weather event to climate change. What we do know is the temperature around the globe is increasing. We do know that the Arctic ice cap is melting faster than was predicted even 5 years ago. And I am a firm believer that climate change is real, that it is impacted by human behavior, and as a consequence, I think we've got an obligation to future generations to do something about it. And understandably, I think the American people right now have been so focused on our economy and jobs and growth that, if the message is somehow we're going to ignore jobs and growth simply to address climate change, I don't think anybody's going to go for that. I won't go for that.
Good afternoon. What kind of Iranian aircraft? The Iranian Su-25 Frogfoot aircraft. At approximately the 16 nautical mile range, moved further out. They intercepted the aircraft and fired multiple rounds.
So was Secretary Panetta awoken or advised of this incident when it occurred?
He was advised very early in the morning.
Those under his command, the world is watching. The use of chemical weapons, is and would be totally unacceptable. There will be consequences, and you will be held accountable.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world. So many ways right now.
Yeah.
The whole world is watching. And the President of the United States has made very clear that there will be consequences if the Assad regime makes a terrible mistake by using these chemical weapons on their own people.
Defending the people of the city of Adana against a possible tactical ballistic missile threat from Syria.
주체 102 2013년 2월 12일 북부 지하 핵시험장에서 제3차 지하 핵시험을 성공적으로 진행하였다.
As we stand by our allies, strengthen our own missile defense, the regime in North Korea must know provocations of the sort we saw last night will only further isolate them. Likewise, the leaders of Iran must recognize that now's the time for a diplomatic solution, and we will do what is necessary to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon.
The asteroid 2012 DA-14 flying by the Earth flies so far away, no one on Earth is in danger.
We've got ahead of us a lot of challenges. We are living at a very defining time in the world.
And we need to think about how we're going to pull each other together to solve really big, serious challenges. We also need to admit that the opportunities that people in other parts of the world want to touch as much as we do are not going to be decided by military. They're going to be decided by creating new opportunities for people everywhere. And so we're all connected to this. And we have to be patient, we have to be strong, we have to recognize how we can find sort of common sense, unifying approaches to solve these kinds of problems.
In our time, the biblical prophecies are being realized. As the prophet Amos said, they shall rebuild ruined cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink their wine. They shall till gardens and eat their fruit. And I will plant